And we're now recording. This is the SIG Network meeting for May 27th, 2021. Do you want to start with some issue triage? Anybody's got it lined
Sure.
up?
I did some prep, but if anybody wants to do it instead, I'm happy to let them. All right.
Go for it, Tim.
Can I share? Window, issues, share. So we had 30 today. I was able to ping a few, close one or two, and assign a few, but I thought they were open. They were interesting enough that they were worth talking about. So let's burn through a few. Casey, this one was all about Calico, so I assigned it to you. I just wanted to say that on recording so that you couldn't claim ignorance.
Works for me. Thank you.
This one's about kube proxy and cleanup. And Antonio reminded me that we used to have this cleanup logic, and then we removed it because it was super problematic. There's basically this user saying, I'm switching from IP tables to IPVS without rebooting, and there's a bunch of IP tables rules that are left over. And the short answer is, yep, there are. We have kube proxy -- cleanup, which tries to clean up stuff, but I tried it myself, and it actually seems to like fail and terminate early if, like on my machine, I don't have IP set. So it seems like that's not perfect. I wonder if it's worthwhile like adding a -- cleanup equals IP tables to force it to only try IP tables for these sorts of use cases.
There was 2 cleanup flags, and someone fixed one of the cleanups 1 year ago.
That was Valerie. Yeah, that was Valerie in like 2015, version 1.15.
But
yeah, and there were linked bugs because it was trouble. Sorry, go ahead, Dan.
Didn't we decide at some point that cleanup was deprecated, and that, as you say, your last comment, the answer is to reboot, that we don't actually support swapping kube proxy modes without restarting?
Yep. And so that's what I said here. I wanted to mention it to the group here in case anybody thought this was a terrible answer. Scream now, otherwise I'm going to go ahead and close this issue.
I like it.
One quick question.
One quick question. Do we want to open a docs issue? Like, is it unclear in the docs, or do you think they just didn't read it?
It's a good question. I have no idea. Should I just reconvert this to a docs issue?
Maybe. I just feel like when people ask it hurts when I do this. Well, don't do that, but maybe we should write down somewhere that people will find it. You can give that to me if you want. I say as I'm about to go for a 4-day weekend and not do it for a while.
We can maybe do that. That's an easy thing to do. We can do that in the meeting tomorrow if you want to assign that to me. Unless Bridget, you actually wanted to do it. I couldn't tell. It sounded like you wanted to do it, and then you're like,
no, I just feel bad, like suggesting that something happened, but not offering to do it. But I am going to be not looking at a computer for 4 days.
I can do it. It's fine.
Yeah. I think that the cleanup works.
Cleanup itself works.
Okay.
But we just decided, well, it works actually maybe like experientially, but I'm not sure that we keep it up to date very well.
I know that some guy fixed it last year because they were claiming that. I will find the issue.
I think it's that it works, but we don't have tests in place for it, and we probably don't.
That's true. Okay.
You can't really guarantee that it works in the corner cases where you don't have certain binaries.
Fair enough.
Okay. Now we have a couple of 3 SCTP issues, which I am ill-equipped to answer. This one is about SCTP restart. Lars tried to tag with area SCTP. Perhaps we should actually petition to get that. We don't have it at the moment. The bug issues here. Does somebody who knows and can recreate SCTP issues want to take this? Not to fix it, just to confirm that it is in fact a thing that we should consider thinking about. Anyone? Nobody feels equipped to take SCTP? All right, we'll have to come back to it then. There's a second one about SCTP, and it's unclear to me exactly what's happening here. I don't know what the relationship is between SCTP and NAT and contract. We need somebody to, again, try to confirm that it's a real thing or not. Lars is all over these, but I didn't want to assign it in his absence. Lars, are you here?
Yeah, I cannot take these because from my company will not use the Linux core SCTP. We have fight it basically.
Right.
So I'm not sure that it. And I don't know SCTP either, so it's
Okay.
not good.
Laszlo, are you here? No. Well, let's see if Laszlo responds to this one.
Yeah, I hope so,
and
because they were the one who introduced it. They should know this pretty good, I believe.
I would hope. I would hope. And then this is another one around SCTP and source NAT. I asked a question here. I'll follow along, but again, I don't really know SCTP well enough to answer completely. Antonio was also very helpful here.
Yeah, this is not about SCTP, and we had several of these before. So this is people is starting to create active passive deployments with service. You know, Bowie was with me in another similar issue. So they have one endpoint active, and when that endpoint dies, you move to the other endpoint. So in that window, you don't have the time to. The contract is not able to detect that endpoint go away, and they keep sending to the same backend.
But they said even when it eventually does go to the other backend, they're trying
Right.
to use they would like to use the same source port, but that's SCTP specific. Like that wouldn't work on TCP anyway, right? Because there's no connection.
I didn't went so deep, but what I'm saying is that I'm starting to see this trend of people deploying services this way, and this is not the first issue with related to this deployment and how contract and that work.
Okay.
About SCTP, I had to introduce a way to disable the port randomizing in Calico to facilitate SCTP. I don't know why they needed it, but for some reason. So it could be something in that direction.
Okay. Well, we'll keep an eye on this one, and I guess if we don't get anybody's answering, we'll revisit it next time. Here is a feature request for Keep Network Policy deny actions. My answer was, nobody, as far as I know, nobody is planning or proposing to add deny to the standard network policy. I wanted to bring it up in the group to see if anybody disagrees with that assessment.
I think they're adding actions as part of the node stuff, right? Because
yeah,
you
but
need...
not to the original network policy. I don't think.
Oh, okay, yeah. But that's the closest thing, though, I guess. I don't know.
Okay, so I'm willing to just leave this in as a feature request, but I said here, somebody would have to lay it all out and figure out what the API changes and the compatibility story and everything are, if we wanted to consider this at all.
You can assign it to me if you want. I can deal with it, or you can point him to the.
I'm curious. This is kept territory.
Yes, this is kept territory. So unless you want to actually go ahead and try to start thinking about a kept, I don't know if you want to be assigned this. Tell me.
No.
we
But
can
maybe send them a link to the kept process, because if they really, really care, they could work on it.
So I think you can add a note here that in the cluster network policy, the possibility of a deny action is being investigated. And then we already have a kept for that. So just point to the kept for.
Can you jump on here and stick the cap? I don't have the link at hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, that person probably just doesn't know that there's a group of people that are already kind of trying to figure this out. So point them at the meeting, maybe they'll show up. And yeah.
Yeah, we can also maybe direct them to the SIG Network Policy API repo now, and maybe have these issues there so that we can further discuss.
Cool. Can you guys just jump on this one and link whatever
Yes.
links you want to link? 102.127.
Got it.
Thank you so much. Crowdsourcing a solution. Service latency should not be very high. So this is an interesting one. I saw Antonio on it again. They're getting an issue in the repair allocator, or the allocator repair, sorry. Cluster IP not allocated. What that means to me, I think, is there's a service with this IP assigned, and it's not, the bit is not set in the bitmap. And that sounds like a bug. Oops. So I responded here, and apparently they responded too. So I've assigned this one to myself, I think. No, I didn't. I'll assign this to myself for now. If anybody has any clues or if they want to dig into the service allocator, feel free to let me know. I'll tear this one off so I remember to reply. Next was ingress versus network policy. I actually put something on the agenda to talk about network policy a little bit later. I think the issue is that they have an in-cluster ingress implementation in Nginx, and they're not enabling the network policy for it. Does that sound right? I've seen this before.
This came up. We felt like there was a lot missing, so I asked a few questions down there. I wasn't sure. Like, we didn't know.
Oh, there you are. Yes, cool. Okay, so we'll let this one run and see if they have answers to these questions.
Cool, thanks.
Flaky test. Antonio's asking questions of Ben, but no answers in 2 weeks. Should we ping it?
No, the load balancer is something that I planned to work on.
Okay, that's assigned to you. Great. If you think this is a real issue, then you can go ahead and accept the triage.
Okay.
TCP contract entries remain stale. So this one, we're getting pretty far back in time now, which is great. This one looks like they have some failed connections, which are leaving contract records in, leaving them around. They're not closing because the connection's never actually established. And they have some limitations on source ports, and so they really want to get rid of those contract rules. I don't really understand the limitation. What I think is interesting is whether, if we really are seeing contract records for things that we could clear, like we have a service, we have the endpoint for it, we should probably ensure that the contract records are cleared the first time we see it. That seems like maybe a reasonable feature request, but somebody needs to investigate. Casey, you're assigned to this, but I don't see you working on it. Do you want me to see if there's anybody else?
I don't remember being assigned to that one. I can take a look at it. I think it just slipped through.
Okay.
Somehow, yeah, it clearly happened. Yeah, I'll take a look at this one over the next few days.
Okay.
The problem with this is if you delete more than, if we have a problem deleting something that we shouldn't or we raise,
Yeah.
those bugs are going to be undetectable.
Yes, they're going to be horrible.
Yeah, that's my concern with all of this.
I'm very much with you. I found some other corner case around contract of something that we probably should be clearing but weren't, and I'm trying to remember the details of it. I'll have to find my notes somewhere. But basically, I looked at the contract code and I thought, oh, geez, this whole thing needs to be thought about a lot more carefully. So if anybody feels like walking in the minefield, let me know.
Yeah, I can maybe take this. I believe it's actually from Ericsson. I know the problem because they have clients that have like 5 ports open in a firewall, and they hammer like crazy on those ports, and the contract entries do never expire.
Right. Okay, cool. Well, please take a look and let us know if there's things that we can actually do here. It seems entirely plausible that there are real bugs here.
Yeah, I believe it's the same for SCTP and UDP. They want the same thing for TCP. I will check it.
I'm sure. Great. And that was about as far as I got in my prep work anyway. We're down into over a month ago with issues. So last reminder, everybody who has been assigned issues, please go look at the issues that are assigned to you and ping them or try to figure out if they're real. If they're real, accept the triage. If they're not, go ahead and close it or bring it back to, or add some notes and we'll bring it back to this group next time. Thanks.
Tim, is there a reason that one's assigned to me?
This one, the CNI one.
I don't
know. I don't know why it was assigned to you. It was assigned to you like back in April. All right. The agenda is yours, Casey.
Thank you, Tim. Next up was Antonio.
Okay, I see Claudio here. We talked about this two meetings ago. That's the thing is, if a kubelet probe should be able to reach pods in another node. Okay, and this was discussed in the mailing list. I created some slides to give more context. I don't know if you read it or you want me to go through them quickly. And so the question is, the network model for Linux says that the pods can reach other pods without NAT. The systems on one node can reach other pods without NAT. And in Linux with host network pods should be able to reach pods in other nodes without NAT. What we found is that the reverse is not possible, or is not straightforward. So if you want to reach a host network pod, it can use a different IP. But well, that's one of the something that we should clarify in the network model. But the question here is about the crowd use test. That is, kubelet should be able to reach pods in another node. My argument is that it should, because kubelet use the host network namespace that is the same that a host network pod is using. So, or you are able to differentiate that the connection comes from kubelet, or you are kind of breaking the network model.
Isn't there a security issue if kubelet can reach pods in other nodes?
But the thing, how do you allow host network pods to reach pods in another nodes and kubelet no? Because we are talking about processes. So the network namespace is the same for kubelet that for a host network pod. It's tricky. That's why I did the slides. If you go through there, it will give you more context with the scenarios. And I mean, and it's a reasonable doubt, and it's a loophole there in our documentation that I think we should clarify to have this discussion.
I hadn't seen your slides before, but they look really nice.
Thank
you. I'm torn on this one because on the one hand, I want to give as much implementation freedom as I can. And so, assuming that host network means the same as kubelet is kind of a dubious assumption. Like, what if kubelet isn't in the host namespace? But it's also it makes assumptions around namespaces, right? Like we are kind of making assumptions.
That's the thing that's what I'm saying is go through the slide, see the scenarios, because it's not easy. I mean, you can argument one thing or the other, and you can. I don't see that it's easy to convince one person, with the opposite idea. That's why I think that we should think about this and take a decision.
Okay.
I don't know. Claudio is here. He has the pain because he's fixing the test that is failing, and it's 1 month since we have this block. So I think that he deserves that we try to speed this up.
Yeah, Antonio made a lot more research on this than I did. So I think he documented this very thoroughly in his presentation and on the mailing list. I'm not sure how much I can add to that, honestly.
Antonio,
Antonio-
what's the use case?
What's
What's the test trying to test?
The test is a Kubelet Pro. No, Claudio, what is the Kubelet Pro? No, it's a
Yeah, basically it's basically you spawn 2 pods. One of them is a web server, and the other one is a pod that has a pre-stop webhook or a post-start webhook. And the issue is that if it's cross-node, it might be problematic. Of course, it works if it's on the same node, because that's also included in the Kubernetes network model. But it's not included in the network model if it's cross-node as supported.
Was there an actual test that was failing?
Yeah, I've reported that and sent.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the details. Like what?
Is it just Windows or is it other places? Is it just that flannel Windows thing?
It's failing for some CNIs on Windows.
I thought
for example,
one there was flannel L2 or whatever, right?
Flannel overlay, yeah.
Yeah.
That's because of a Windows implementation.
The other thing is, if you have a Kubelet Pro, an HTTP Pro to a pod in another node, that's going to fail. I mean, the problem is the Kubelet Pros and the hooks, these hooks. So that's why I say this is tricky, and it has a lot of corner cases, and you can justify one or the other thing. That's why I asked you to take a look and see the different combination, because it's not easy.
It's a good question. I forget. Windows was the recipe piece that I was missing.
Yeah, but still, I don't think the intent of the probes was to probe things cross-network. That seems like fraught with cascading failure things that might take your app down, even though the network, you got an esoteric network problem. Like probes were supposed to be within the same physical host, right? For the.
But there is one issue that one person is probing something through the internet. So,
yeah, I mean, we have a feature that lets you do that. And whether we like the feature today or not, we have it. And we need to figure out what the bounds of it really are. So Antonio, I will read over your slides in more detail. And I guess I'll offer my opinion, but I really would like to hear other folks' thoughts on this one.
It seems like rather than opening up kubelet, reaching pods and other nodes, it would be better to define what is the correct networking model for host network pods. What should host network pods be able to reach and what should they not be able to reach, rather than letting kubelet also open up to other nodes.
Yeah, but that is clear. The model is clear. If the host network pods should be able to reach other pods in other nodes. That's the loophole that breaks everything.
But Windows in general doesn't support host network, right?
We are talking about Linux only. This only applies to Linux.
Right, and it was okay. So Windows is interesting because it doesn't support host network. There are CNIs for whom this is broken on Linux, right?
I don't know.
Got it. I'll bet there is. Given that it wasn't specified, there probably is.
Yes.
I mean, I don't.
And Windows kind of supports host network if you're running Docker and you.
I mean, it does support it. Yeah, kubelet doesn't run there though. Kubelet doesn't run in the host network namespace on Windows. That's the problem. The assumption's there. So there's a routing container that kubelet's not started in by default.
I see. Okay, well, I know there's a thread on this on the mailing list, so it would be great. Lockie, your color on the vagaries of Windows would be excellent. And I will offer my own thoughts as soon as I get a chance to digest these slides.
Thanks, everybody. Jay, I think you were next. Jay and Kate Nabin.
Yeah, service proxy test. I mean, you want to share?
Yeah, I will share my
If you
screen.
have a demo, how much, just for timing, how long do you think that takes?
I can do this in 10 minutes.
Perfect.
Okay, I go through a few slides. To give some context of what we're doing here. On the Proxy sub-project, we created a tool to validate the services inside Kubernetes, and we reused some of the tooling that already exists and frameworks that already exist to build this tool. Basically, we are using to validate some other fronts like a ping and other things that are going on in the subgroup. And we have some examples of issues in things that were happening when in the middle of the SIG network situation. So as I said, we have some other tooling around, like the main one is the table driving test that we created for the CNI, and we are reusing this in this project. So we are using the Kubernetes SIG Z2E framework and client Go. We have a few cases covered so far. We have cluster IP, node port with external traffic policy cluster, external traffic policy local, external name with name testing, and load balancer. So the architecture is like something like this. So you have like a few bootstrap schema to bring the pods. We run the tests as unit tests or integration tests. We probe the pods between them, bring the results in the output, and clean up in the after run all the namespace. So basically, it's a binary that you can run in your cluster and take a look and see the results and see if your services are running correctly. How to develop these? We are using our network policy framework for table tests. Basically, you define a reachability initiation. So you say everything on the table is false. You enable a few of them, like all the pods on namespace and NSX can talk with pod 1 in the same namespace. And you validate this in the end. So you programmatically can create these rules, and you have tables in the end that will show you what you expected, what you observed with the probes and the results of this probe and the diff between both of them. That's it for these slides. I can run a few things in the demo here.
Yeah, so like the reason we ran into this is because we started testing some stuff on Kaping, and then we ran into that, you know how every GitHub issue you always run into, it's the same thing. It's like, well, can you reach it from this pod? Can you reach it from that pod? What node is that pod on? And then you go back and forth and you ask them, and you spend like 3 weeks going back and forth, and 30% of the time you don't hear back from anybody. So
we have a doc, we wrote a doc on this for that reason, like pre 1.0, it's like how to debug your services. Now leave me alone.
Yeah. So yeah, so basically this will just be like that. Like, so this will be the thing where you'll see the patterns and you'll know like none of my nodes can reach it, anything. That way we can A/B test between Kaping and Kuproxy, because otherwise it's too hard. You have to be super smart to figure it out otherwise. And
yeah, so basically it will take a while to probe these things, but basically you build your binary to point to the Kubernetes config on your host. It will probe to make sure everything's running, the pods are up. I have a kind cluster here. It will try to validate the probes between the pods. And if it fails, that what's happening here on my machine, I don't know the reason, but it's a regular cluster IP request, but it fails, it will try the second try, and in the end you print the difference between the expected and the observed. So it will loop through all this test case we have. I have a Metal LB running on my machine that will give me an IP for the load balancer. And I have some results in the load balancer as well. This is for the external traffic policy local. We expect some failures. This is a very interesting one. So we expect that all the pods in the namespace hit this first pod and block every other pod, but this pass for the hairpin ones. So when I hit one pod using the node port in another host, it fails in the local port, in the local traffic. But if uses the same port like the hairpin, it will pass, even if you use the node IP and the port of the service. So in the end, like we have this external DNS and it passes, so it will end up with a good error star 0.
Why no color coding? I'm kidding.
So that's it.
Well,
that's cool. What is the go on, Tony?
Lots of
when
questions.
are going to implement this?
What's that, Antonio?
Yeah, when is this going to work in upstream?
Yeah, that's a good question. We have a repository outside Kubernetes.
So it took us 2 years to do this for network policies. So we're wondering, should we? I don't know if I want to. Yeah, like if there's an easy way to do this upstream, I think it's down. I definitely don't want to write another KEP for it, but like if y'all are down, like we can make a test. We can do it upstream. We could PR it. I think like in a couple of weeks we could clean it up and
well,
whatever.
my question for you guys is the goal to make this like one of the EDE tests just so that the test is cleaner, or is it to make it a tool that we point users at and say, huh, something smells fishy, go run this?
But well, both. We'd like to use it the same way we use network policy tests right now, which is that yes, we use them for verifying CNIs, but we also can use them now when individuals have bugs. We can just tell them to go run those E2Es and it'll tell them exactly what's wrong. And also for issue triage. And also for if we can, you know, once we get node ports and stuff like that working in Kaping for doing A/B testing between that and Kube proxy and so on and so forth. So we'd like to kind of use it for everything. Yeah.
The question that I have is, should this live in KK, or should we make a separate repo for like test tools, or should we make this a separate repo just for this thing?
That's up to y'all, like whatever.
If you want to make it general, it cannot live in KK because of the API. I mean, you cannot this thing with the ingress. If KK deprecate the API, you are new too. You're not going to be able to work against the old API. That's my advice. You know, if you put things in KK, you are constrained due to the latest version of Kubernetes.
I mean, I would like to like get rid of the service tests that we currently have in test E2E. I mean, a lot of them are not easy to use, right? And a lot of them, they'll do things like they'll pick a node and they have pick favorites as far as who's polling who, and it's like you don't know like what's wrong. So I think it'd be kind of cool if we made our own repo and then we said, look, for service conformance, we just got another repo that I did. Isn't there something else going on like that? Antonio, you told me there was something like a service conformance test someone was working.
The ingress people created or Gateway API. I don't know. I don't remember, but they have a conformance test suite out of in Kubernetes 6. If it's Bowie or Robert Scott, I think that they will know.
Yes, we do.
So the question is the question that's in my head is, are we allowed to have a conformance test which depends on an out of tree repo? Like we could vendor it back into KK and then make it one of the conformance tests by just calling the library. Are we okay with that? I'm not sure why we wouldn't be. I just don't know that it's ever been done before.
But the thing is, conformance is tied to the E2E. I mean, I thought that is
Yeah.
something, but it's really tied, or is tied because historical reason?
Because in order to enforce conformance, we had to have tests, and those were the only tests we had.
Yeah, but I mean, if you have a tool and you say SIG Network is going to run conformance with this suite, the CNCF is going to accept that or not? Is my question.
I don't know. I don't think it's CNCF. I think it's SIG Arch or with the conformance group who just needs to define it, right?
Right.
So like maybe the right step then is to just have a conversation with like John Bellameric or something. John, I don't know if you're here. No. Maybe he'll have an opinion on this and how he'd like to see it proceed. He's sort of the steward of conformance right now.
Yeah, that works. I mean, what do you think? I mean, it seems like it's for us, we have more work to do anyways, so we're not super worried about getting, like.
Yeah, I would like to have directional guidance though.
Yeah, cool.
You want to take the action, just reach out to John and ask him if he's got 10 minutes to see the demo and give us some thoughts about how to integrate this with E2E and conformance?
Yeah, sure. All right. I mean, we can sync up maybe offline and talk about.
All right.
How it works.
Cool. Well, it's great.
And once you have it working, we can start adding jobs. I mean, jobs are independent of, and we can demonstrate.
That's true.
Because
that's true.
Yeah, that's actually a really good idea.
For conformance, you need at least, I think, 1 month without flakes.
So we could just add jobs. So if you're okay adding jobs now, we could just start adding jobs once we finalize a few more of the permutations of stuff.
Just ping me. I mean, we do the same thing.
Okay.
Cool. Good idea.
All right.
And trust me, if you're able to delete the existing service EDEs, I'll be the first one to dance a jig on its grave.
Is that a pun because you have that service jig in there? That.
Oh no, I didn't even think of that. I made the mess, so thanks for cleaning it up.
Cool. Looks good, guys. Tim, you were next with KEP stuff and then policy, whichever order you want.
Cool. So, so I spent some time since the KEP freeze was in the last couple of weeks, and I spent a lot of time reading KEPs. I spent some time this last weekend taking a look at our project board, and our project board that we've got. Did anybody know we have a project board? We have a SIGNet project board, and we don't really use it for anything, and it was sort of a mishmash of ideas. And I thought, let's just make it about KEPs, because damn, we have so many open KEPs and so many open feature gates that I was overwhelmed trying to keep track of them all. So I fired up the project board. In fact, can I share screen again? Let's do that. Share window. Share. So I fired up the project board and I deleted everything that wasn't KEP related. And I retitled the columns. And you'll see I have PRs. Ignore that one for a minute. This is new KEPs that are tagged SIG Network but have not yet been sorted or evaluated. Things that have been evaluated but are not merged in yet. Things that are merged, alpha, beta, and GA, but the gate not removed. And this is where it got interesting. We talk about KEPs being alpha, beta, and GA, but there's nothing actually physical that manifests that except the gates. And some KEPs have no gates, and some KEPs have multiple gates. And those multiple gates are sometimes in different stages. Like endpoint slice, I thought, oh, that's GA, cool, no problem. Oh, wait, actually one of the gates in the endpoint slice KEP is still beta. So I was trying to figure out, like, how do I want to activate this? Bridget says we have to remove the gates. No, we have to remove the gates 2 releases after we GA them. We have to lock it at GA time, but the gate still has to be there. So anybody who has a command line that still specifies that gate will still operate. They won't get an error. And then 2 releases later, they'll start getting an error. So there's a ton of gates that are like remove after 1.24. And there's some that are like remove after 1.6, and they're still in there. So, but that's different issue. So I went through all the KEPs and I added them all here. And then I started like verifying them. And so I started from GA backwards. So everything that's in the GA column, I can confirm. I went and looked at the gates that are associated with these KEPs are in fact GA, and they are just waiting to be removed. Everything that's in the beta column is in fact has its gates in beta and is potentially moving to GA this cycle, but is currently in beta as of master last week. I went through all of alpha and the same thing. Now, this is where I stopped because I ran out of time this weekend. But basically, some that were in GA got bumped to beta, back to beta, and some beta moved to alpha, some alpha moved to pre-alpha. There are a lot that are still in pre-alpha or new, not evaluated that I need to go through. It's entirely possible that I missed some. I only picked things up that were labeled SIG Network. And this is, I think, the interesting column. I added all the PRs that are labeled SIG Network. Some of these are duplicative of these first other two columns, but some of them are like edits to existing KEPs. I don't really know what I want to do with that yet. But I thought before I got too much farther with it, I thought I would show the group and see, like, is this useful? For me, it was useful just getting my head around the sheer number of KEPs and gates that we have open. Another thing that I did is I actually went through all the gate definitions in the code, and I started adding a KEP comment to them so that once I look at all the gates, I can go backwards to the KEPs. I found that to be useful too. Maybe a link will be better than the KEP number, but anyway, the question here is, like, is this useful for people?
I think it's going to be very useful, especially if, as you're referencing, you're putting a few other notes here and there. As we go through, we might find it's valuable to be like, if we have one, say, that's beta that we're trying to move to GA, are the docs in, because like there's that spreadsheet for, the bit.ly blah, blah, blah spreadsheet, but I feel like we can't easily search in there compared to something like this. So
the problem that I have with project boards in general is it really only supports issues and PRs. There's no other manageable entity. So like, we don't have an issue or a PR per gate, right? And now maybe we should have a separate subtype of issue that is, these are for KEP issues and these are for gate issues. And one KEP can have one or more gate issues. I'm not sure that we need to go through that level of machinery and sort of obfuscation. On the other hand, it was definitely a wake-up call of like, if you're writing a KEP and you want to add a new gate, make it a new KEP, because otherwise your KEP is going to get stuck in this beta column while we wait for everybody to catch up. And what does it actually mean? I don't know. Nothing much really, right? We can still call the endpoint slices GA. It's just not completely GA because it's still waiting on one straggler right here. So I thought this was useful. And I wanted to, share it with people. It's in this state now. If anybody wants to go take a look at it, I could certainly use help verifying the pre-alphas and news. My process was basically go look at the KEP, figure out which gates it referred to, go back to the code, and in package features, find the gate, confirm that it was in fact alpha or pre-alpha, or had it been merged or released yet. It was just a little bit of back and forth between windows. It wasn't super painful, but it's a little bit of work. And then I would love to like visit this every meeting or every couple of meetings just to see how things are going with all of our various KEPs. Which leads me to my second point. While we have a lot of KEPs open right now, and in fact, in reading some of them, I don't think all of them are even complete. Like Andrew, I don't know if you're here, but there's the KEP around graceful termination for daemon sets. I think we should probably extend that to just be graceful termination for all services. And that's not even covered by the KEP.
For daemon sets?
Well, you have it for daemon sets where you'll add terminating endpoints for the daemon set, or for policy local, right?
Yeah, that was for policy local. It wasn't for daemon sets.
Yeah, I feel like the same terminating endpoints trick probably should apply to all services once we prove that it works. And like, that's not even documented in the KEP. Like it's a new KEP, right?
Yes, I would agree that would be a new KEP. Yeah.
So anyway, my point was we have a ton of stuff going on and it's been very tricky to think about the intersection of many of these. So I wanted to soft propose, just to float a trial balloon here. I don't know about you all, but I'm feeling a little overwhelmed with these. I would like to suggest that we slow down on the number of net new KEPs that we throw in until we can clear out some of the big ones that we've got going on in here, like dual stack, like cluster network policy, like multi-sider. Like these ones are very early in their life cycle and they're fairly big, like the intersection of all the internal traffic policy and terminating and endpoint slice. I would love for us to like get those all into GA and be confident in them before we start bringing in a whole host of new KEPs. So I'm not saying we are going to do it, but I'd like to suggest maybe we should think about it.
Yeah,
Somebody yell at me.
No, I think that you are right, because we have the situation now that we have some KEPs that we need to that are practically abandoned in beta, and we need to carry on with them. So
yes, I was very disappointed to find out that the IP mode one, like, is just stuck. It's stuck in alpha because it's only half implemented.
Yeah, and I mean, at least this seems to grow only. It doesn't seem to we are not able to finish.
Yeah.
At least the dual stack and endpoint rises. We should.
Bridget says we should finish or officially abandon. I agree with that. And I'm not above backing out changes if we can't get somebody who wants to carry the ball forward on them. Right. And in fact, I think we should think hard about, like, do we merge code for things that are alpha but not complete? Like, well, how do we manage this life cycle better? Like, clearly we have some gaps, and people disappearing is causing us to have stale stuff. Sorry, go ahead, Bridget.
Oh, no, I was completely agreeing with you and just saying having people plugged into the process, I think is huge. And I did add the link to this board to the next meeting, but maybe 2 minutes at the beginning of every meeting, just make sure that something has happened on some set, maybe one meeting we look through one column, another meeting we look through another column. And if nothing has happened, we put the bat signal out there. Because I feel like if we don't, then 6 months and a year and 18 months goes by and something just languishes.
Yeah. And honestly, every time something moves to the right, it's a celebration, right? Like, good job, guys. We did it. We moved forward.
Is there a label we can use for the KEPs that are kind of abandoned, like the IP mode one that you mentioned? Like, I feel like I know a few folks that might want to pick that up if it's abandoned.
I don't think we have a label, but it's a good idea.
I mean,
maybe,
is there
maybe
like
we
a
should
help
propose.
wanted or a?
I mean, it has all the same labels
that we could use.
Yeah, it has all the same labels as every other repo, right? So maybe help wanted is a good one. Andrew, if you want to go shopping for a label, then you can just nominate one. Help wanted maybe is a good start.
Sure. Yeah, I just don't have the context on like which ones are actually abandoned and which ones are just kind of in progress.
Okay. Well, I can tell you everything in alpha and to the right is active. And, oh wait, no, that's not true. Everything beta and to the right is active. Alpha, I think the mixed protocols was not supported. I think that's one that was stuck in alpha because it's only half implemented. Just as an example.
Okay, so it
okay,
sounds
well,
like.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it sounds like folks have to just like go through the issues and look at the history and kind of gauge from there.
Yeah. So if we can get to a place between now and the next meeting where we're sure that everything in this board is in the correct column, then we can go through them and just talk about them and talk through why they're in the columns that they're in, right? Especially the things that are pre-alpha and alpha.
Okay. Tim, can you announce it in the mailing list? Because I know some people is from Asia and they don't attend this meeting.
Yeah, I wanted to float it here just to see if people were like, oh, this is stupid, you dummy. But since everybody seems to be at least not complaining, I'll go ahead and announce it on the mailing list. And I will suggest the slowdown.
And
okay,
if you're worried about people not liking the idea of a slowdown, you could reframe it as, we want to make sure everything on this board has a chance to succeed. So we want to not put more on without evaluating moving forward or aging out some, just so that
Yeah,
there's
I
room,
think it
cognitive
has
load.
potential to like focus the energy a little bit. You know, if somebody comes in wanting to get this new KEP in, but they realize it's blocked behind something else that needs help, then
yeah,
go help that, and it will get your KEP into the next stage, right? If we're strict about this.
did I just see somebody move something?
I did.
Something on my screen.
I felt port range not being in beta and felt sad. Sorry.
Is it actually in beta? I went and looked at the gate and it looked like the gate was still marked alpha.
Yeah, sorry, it's alpha. I thought that this one was things going to beta, but it wasn't the new, not evaluated. I can move back.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I want to try to keep this like, I specifically put the comment in there, like it's beta when the code is merged into KK. Cool.
Okay,
All right. So everybody, please feel free to take a look at these. I'll send a note to SIGNet, and Andrew, we can talk about questions like yours, like you just asked on the thread there with the larger audience. I think I had the next agenda, but we're just about out of time.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll punt it. I'll open it here and then I'll leave it. The topic of the intersection of external traffic and network policy has come up again. And I could have sworn that we had sort of decided what to do with it, but I think Dan and Casey have convinced me we talked about it, but we never actually decided. And so it seems like quite a mess that network policy and node ports and network policy and load balancers and network policy and ingress is ill-defined. So perhaps this is something we can come back and define more clearly. And I'll move it to the agenda for next time.
Yeah, and happy to talk about this on the Monday meetings for network policy as well.
And Bridget, you had the last item on the agenda, or did you take it off? You moved it?
I totally moved it to next time, but I would be thrilled if anyone, especially people that Cal mentioned, has a chance to review, because it is in that beta column that we want to move to GA. And there is that one prefer dual stack like network loop issue that needs a few people to look at. So
I have it open, and tomorrow is my no meetings day, so I will do my damnedest to get at it tomorrow.
I think Cal is back from vacation next week, so it would be great timing for everyone to get a chance to take a look at that, and we can start moving it again.
Is this just the last thing to go to GA, right?
I'm
or
sorry?
do we have anything else for dual stack, or is this just?
This is the one blocking bug that we know of, but we also would like to see more signal from various, like, say, cloud providers. And I'm working to try to get our team in our current planning phase to make sure that we make it as easy as possible for customers to be using the 1.21 beta now that it's going to be available in AKS, and let them test dual stack. So yeah, that's kind of we want to get more signal. Yeah.
There are some related issues like host IPs for that, but those are separate KEPs, and I think they're async. I don't think they're GA blockers.
Yeah. But this issue is a GA blocker. So completely aside from wanting to get more signal from what it looks like in the wild, we definitely have to resolve this issue through one of the many things that were talked about.
Cool. I think that's the end. Thanks everybody for coming. We'll see you all in 2 weeks.
Thanks all.
Thank you. Bye-bye.